Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. It's a new week. We start with a blank canvas. Anything is possible. Let's paint some pictures together and let's try and make them positive. Here we go.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. It's Monday, start of the week. You know, it's kind of like when you have a weekend and it gets to Monday and you're like, I'm going to start my diet. I'm going to eat clean. I'm not going to drink. You know, everything's possible. And then by Wednesday, by hump day, you know, the shit just hits the fan, basically. But let's hope that's not the case for us this week. Okay, Super Kevin Campbell is not with us tonight. He is actually watching Tyrese play football, his comeback. So please send well wishes to Tyrese. He's playing for the under-23s against Middlesbrough tonight. But Super Kev will be returning tomorrow for the Tuesday-ish club with David Hillier. So in terms of what we did this weekend, tactically, how we set up, how Arteta changed things in the second half, the 4-3-3, we're going to save all that tomorrow when we chat to two Arsenal legends in the Tuesday-ish club. We're also going to talk to them about Arteta's comment with regards to the fact that the last 15 days have been the best ever in his career. Really, it was better than lifting the FA Cup for the Arsenal? I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to get into that with the players who've worn the shirt, fought for the badge, and know what it's like to be inside the dressing room. Right, squaddies? At ease. Good evening to everybody in chat. The usual suspects are here. And tonight I wanted to do something a little bit different with Monday Madness. I definitely have 5 talking points. But I think that sometimes we get in our own heads. All fans do. All fandoms do. Especially Arsenal fans of late. I mean, we've been through ups and downs. We've been a mess, let's be honest. And sometimes it's good to step out the bubble and get someone else's opinion. Now, I'm going to bring someone into the show right now. You will know him as the ref. So we also are going to ask him a few questions about the Gunners as well. Before I do that, I just wanted to say to everybody, listen, we needed 3 points at the weekend. We got 3 points. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. I've been ripped to shreds a little bit by some fans online because I even dared to suggest that maybe one day Ben White could be as good as John Stones and Harry Maguire. In fact, some people got kind of vicious. Just keep it in perspective. Why can't you believe in a player? Why can't you see something in a player that makes you think that he's going to excel? Harry Maguire was garbage at one point. Do you remember when he was the butt of everyone's joke and he was the meme of the week? John Stones cost Manchester City points. Really? With his back passes. Yes, he's got Pep Guardiola who's helped bring him along and make him a better player. Harry Maguire has been better, not because of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but because of the England setup and the players I think he's played with within England. But Manchester United also have better players than the Arsenal. So if you're going to disagree with someone, disagree. I don't know what's happened to the world where you can't have a different opinion to somebody else without you trashing someone else's opinion. It's okay to be positive if your team won 3-0, if your team won 4-0, 5-0, 1-0. The point of the matter is if we'd have lost to Norwich or even drawn with Norwich, the sky would have been falling. And could you imagine the toxicity over the weekend? So take a deep breath. Everyone wanted to see this team play. Arteta picked this team. I'm not a fan, as you guys know how I feel about him. Is he going to be the guy that takes this team to the promised land? Probably not. But can we just get behind the new signings and the new players who've come into the squad? And be somehow a united fan base, if we can, and see where this goes. I predicted a win against Norwich. I actually predicted a loss to Burnley. And then I said that we'd probably win the North London derby. It's not going to be perfect. We're going to have ups, downs, peaks, troughs. So let's just really have discussions, have debates, and try not to be nasty about it. Don't do nasty. Let me bring in this legend. Hey, the ref's back.
You okay? How are we?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, really good. Really good.
It's really good to see you, and it's so fun. I'm just coming off a weekend where, you know, we love Arteta. Well, not we. There are lots of people who are, you know, Arteta in. There are lots of people who are Arteta out. There are also lots of people that hate the fact that, you know, in their opinion, we bought garbage and spent 150 million on garbage. I think some fans don't realise that not having European football really hampers you in terms of the profile and the style of player that you can hire. But Ref, before we get into our goal and whether or not it was offside, and we'll talk a little bit about VAR, I know it's not ethical to get your opinion on these kinds of matters, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Was it, as an outsider looking in on the Arsenal, for me, 3 points was the most important thing this weekend, with a little bit more of an enhanced performance. I think I was ripped a lot by opposing fans for my comment on Ben White, especially Man United fans, of course, because now they're going to win the league. They've got Ronaldo. They're happy again. I mean, now the Glazers are fantastic. Whoa, Red Devils. I mean, I loved Ronaldo, and they're making me dislike him now because it's like he's thrown, the media just throwing up all over the place when it comes to Ronaldo. Talk me through a little bit about Arsenal this weekend, and from an opposing fan point of view, and what you saw.
Well, first and foremost, they needed a win. You know, the negativity around Arsenal from the start of the season, and obviously to an extent last season coming into this season, Arsenal really needed a strong start to sort of keep the wolves from the door in terms of the fan base imploding a little bit, and the negativity around the press and the media. So Saturday was absolutely vital. It doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter if it's 1-0 with a scruffy goal. It's irrelevant. The 3 points are on the board, and automatically then an air of positivity will come around the club because they've got those 3 points and now they can move on to the next game. If it had have gone wrong on Saturday and Arsenal didn't win, or God forbid lost, then the whole narrative around it would have been completely different. So look, as a football fan who watched my own team at times struggling, and knowing what it's like to go into a pressurised game where 3 points were absolute, to get 4 defeats on the bounce at the start of the season would have been absolutely catastrophic. And look, they've lost to Manchester City and they've lost to Chelsea. Teams are going to lose to those 2 football teams all season. So unfortunately, Arsenal come up against 2 of them in the opening game. All right, the Brentford game, again, you know, I remember talking at the time, not just about Arsenal, but going into a game against a newly promoted side who were playing their first home game ever in the Premier League and the first time in the top flight for 50 plus years. That was always going to be a bear pit. And again, Arsenal needed a strong start in that game. They needed to score early, dampen it. They didn't. They allowed Brentford on, and from then it became negative. And then they've lost to City and Chelsea. So this weekend, what was vital was 3 points. The performance, okay, but what was vital was getting over the line and getting the points.
I completely agree with you, because even if we had drawn to Norwich, I think, Ref, the sky would be falling. It would have been an absolute disaster. And you're 100% right. And I know that, you know, from your perspective, you know, with your own club too, Arsenal are a dartboard, you know, and we've done that to ourselves. We've made ourselves the dartboard. We've become a laughing stock. And I was, you know, going back and forth with folks on social media, and I was saying, look, if Tottenham or Leicester had bought Ben White, I truly believe, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, I truly believe that the media would have said, look at them buying a young English talent who has the potential to be in the England squad in years to come. You know, and then the narrative would also be coached by Marcelo Bielsa. You know, learned a lot technically as a footballer. Yes, he might be challenged aerially, and then they would have said, look how he shone for Brighton, one of Brighton's best players. You go ask Leeds fans, you go ask Brighton fans how they feel about Ben White, and it's glowing reviews. Our guy at Football Prizes, who gives us a lot of great, who's one of our sponsors and stuff, he's a Leeds United season ticket holder, and he phoned me and he said, Soph, he goes, you've got a gem here. He's a really good player, and he was a huge part of why Leeds were promoted in the Championship. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's the Championship. I'm not sure people realise how tough that league is to play in. So it's really, I think we're treated differently because we've allowed ourselves to become this dartboard.
Yeah, I don't think you're treated differently. I think you're treated. So people know I'm a Liverpool fan. Yeah, I'm a Liverpool season ticket holder. And if you'd go back 10 years, 12 years to when we were sort of coming out of the Hodgson years, then into Dalglish's last spell, and the way that the club was ran, the type of signings we were making, we were in that position. We were in a position where we couldn't get anything right. We were bringing players in. Every player we signed, there was a different narrative around it because the club was struggling and because the team was struggling on and off the field. Arsenal, you're right, Arsenal are in a position that's been created by themselves in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But football clubs are defined by one thing. In reality, football teams are defined by recruitment. They are. You get your recruitment right, and you'll be on a pathway. Now, it's not always perfect, but you get your recruitment process correct. You look at when Arsenal became successful, became the great sides under Wenger of the 1990s, and look at the type of player that Arsenal were targeting at that time. When Patrick Vieira came in, when Thierry Henry came in, they're the legends they are now, but they weren't the legends they were at that time. They were
Bingo.
So you look at someone like Ben White. Again, I have a lot of mutual friends who are Leeds fans who watched him closely. I know Liverpool was sniffing around him.
Mm-hmm.
Our recruitment process has generally been really good. And they were looking around Ben White. They were really, really interested in him. Firstly, how can you judge a player based on 2-3 performances? For a start, it's impossible. He's coming to a team which has not got a positive narrative around it. It's not got a positive aura about it. It's going to be difficult for him initially to impose himself. It's not a side that's found itself, certainly in terms of solidity and in terms of trying to find that way of playing football from the back. Ben White's a footballer. He's a footballer and he's a versatile footballer. Can he be physically more imposing? Probably. But that'll come. Mm-hmm. That'll come in time. There's a thing that football fans lack these days, and that is patience. You don't have it anymore. A player comes in, doesn't necessarily play well for a couple of games, and it's a disaster. A player comes in, plays well for a couple of games, and he's the greatest player on earth. That's the way that football supporters have gone, and social media's got a lot to play in that, because everything's black and white now. Everything's a disaster or it's brilliant. Ben White will take time. He'll take time to find himself in an Arsenal shirt. But don't get me wrong, he is talented, he is versatile, he is English, and therefore we're screaming out for those types of players. And he's got a difficulty in the England team because it seems to be quite settled, certainly at the back. When you've got players like Trent Alexander-Arnold struggling to get in an England side, that's a strong unit. Whatever anyone thinks of England, that's a strong unit there. Harry Maguire, you touched on before, you're right, struggled at United, really struggled. But Maguire's an organiser. He's not the quickest. Mm-hmm. He's not technically the greatest footballer. But my God, Manchester United and England are a much better side with him in it. Forget how much money they paid for him. They're a better side with him in it. If you can get Ben White to a level where he's also imposing himself in an organisational manner, when he's marshalling the back four and leading a back four, you will then find a platform for him to be able to show his natural ability. He's a much better footballer than Harry Maguire. I'll tell you that right now. So if you can get that confidence and that solidity around him, and your midfield has a part to play in that as well, to give him that confidence, you've got a footballer in Ben White. And Arsenal fans just need to calm down and just allow the lad to play some football and to find his feet at a big football club. He's made a big move. Now, he's helped because he played at Leeds, and Leeds are a big club. Whatever in the Championship, they're a big club. So he's sort of had that expectation on his shoulder already, but it's a different ball game at Arsenal. And he's got to be given that time and that space to find himself. Because if you suddenly get on him and you hound him, there's nothing worse than an unconfident centre-half. Because if he's frightened of making a mistake because the fans are on his back, then you're knocking it out. You talk about John Stones. That's exactly where John Stones was.
Yep. I agree. Yep, go on.
Now, the beauty of John Stones was he had a manager who actually could see beyond the noise. So he had Laporte and he had Vincent Kompany and you had John Stones. So all of a sudden you've got two very solid brilliant centre halves. And John Stones, who wants to play always, wants to find a pass always, wants to get confident centre half, bringing the ball out from the back, finding quick balls. You make a mistake there, you're done. You're done. And he lost his confidence. And everyone was all over him. He's going to leave. He's going to go here, there, and the other. He's going to get sold. He brought Ruben Dias in. And Guardiola had the guts and the confidence and the man management to go, do you know what? He's a better partner for Ruben Dias than Amrabat Laporte is.
Yep.
Now that's balls from a manager, because I'm sure that Man City fans at that time would have been going, really?
The other thing too is do you remember around this time last season, Ref, that when everyone was saying City had wasted money on defenders, garbage, right? And they started off really poorly, and then it all gelled together at some point. And they go on to win the league. Now that's not us. We're so far away from that. We don't even have in our small little nail the talent that City have in their squad. They are leaps and bounds ahead of us. But I think the issue with Ben White, and this is why I wanted to talk to you today, to get out of our Arsenal bubble. And by the way, Darren, you said you're disappointed in me because you thought I was Arteta out. I just speak my mind on what I see. And I'm not Arteta. I think this squad with a more experienced manager can do bits. I really, truly believe that. I think somebody who's been there, who understands the game a little bit in more depth, who can manage men in a more superior manner, in a more understanding manner than Mikel Arteta, could do really well with this team. You've got Aubameyang, you've got Pepe, you've got Saka, you've got Ben White, you've got Gabriel, you've got Partey, you've got Lokonga, you've got Tierney, you've got Emile Smith-Rowe, you've got Odegaard. Those are not bad players, people. They are not. So that answers your question, Darren. But I'm going to circle back here with the Ref, because do you know what the issue is, Ref, with the whole Ben White thing? It's all to do with William Saliba. It is all to do with buying a player for 27 million, giving him a 5-year contract, and the last 2 years he's been out on loan. If Saliba was still at the club, fans, I truly believe, would be saying, "Holy shit, we can choose between Gabriel, we can choose between Ben White, we got Saliba, we got Tomiyasu now, we got Tierney." I think that is the crux of the problem. And yes, Ben White needs to improve aerially, but, defensive partnerships also complement each other. Gabriel is really good in the air. He's going to be someone who's going to get a lot of goals on set pieces. Ben White, I don't know if people have paid any attention to his passing, but he's really super talented. Do you think there's any relevance to my comment regarding the fact that is where that comes from, because of the ill treatment of Saliba, the way Arteta's handled the whole thing, and how we've completely mistreated an asset like that?
I mean, from the outside in, I don't know enough about Arteta's man management style, but from the outside in, it doesn't seem like the type of managerial structure which is clever, shall we say. So if you look at just flicking back a second though, the other problem you've got, if you start comparing yourself to Manchester City, I know what you're saying, but you've got a problem, and you had a problem Liverpool had 10 years ago. You hit on it at the start. You don't have Champions League football. So no. You don't have European football. So you've got to find a way of getting talent to the club that isn't as easy as going, we'll lash 60 million like Man City can do. Man City wanted 2 fullbacks. They went and paid 60 million for Cancelo and whoever else. And it's just like, they've got a problem, they'll fix it. Because they've got the gravitas as a club. They've got Champions League football. They're winning trophies. So they can attract players. Manchester United can attract players. Liverpool, to an extent, can attract players, but there's an issue around money there. That's a different matter. They can still attract players. Arsenal have a problem. Arsenal have a problem. If they're going to go out and buy players and get better players in, I said at the start, it's all about recruitment. If you get your recruitment right, you're on the right path. Arsenal have to find a different way. They have to find a way of getting good players at the club. And actually, I think their recruitment this summer has been pretty positive. I look at the players they brought in. I'm not sure they're going to attract better players than what they've bought in. Easy. So, you got out and got Odegaard back at the club. Great signing. Absolutely. When he went from Arsenal back, I was thinking they've sort of tripped up here, but they've bought him. They've bought Tomiyasu. They've bought Lokonga. They've bought really good players with value, players with good age, players who can improve. Now, from the outside, where I see that there's a problem is, can Mikel Arteta individually and as a collective improve those players? Mm-hmm. Can he take a player, and some Arsenal fans might not like this, but I'm going to say it. So one of Jurgen Klopp's biggest plus points as a manager is virtually every player he manages improves. You look at the type likes of Andrew Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. These are players who he has nurtured individually as a person. He's given them maturity. He's given them a chance. Look at what he's done with Harvey Elliott now. Mm-hmm. He's played every game. Played against Chelsea, played against Leeds. He's playing. Is Mikel Arteta a strong enough personality to get hold of a Ben White, to get hold of a Lokanga, to get hold of a Nicolas Pepe? Forget what you paid for him, but improve them individually and as a collective. Has he got the backbone to be able to do that? I can't answer that because I don't watch them closely enough, but from what I can see, I don't think he has. So that's where I have a problem.
I think you bring up, so this is my biggest fear, right? Because someone just mentioned Tony Adams. I think it was AFC someone, and I had it up on screen. There was a time where people doubted Tony Adams' ability to bring out the ball from the back and pass, right? We've seen that with a lot of players. Look at Raheem Sterling. Pep Guardiola's improved Raheem Sterling. Rodgers didn't know how to manage Sterling. Certain managers can take on players, in different ways. Now, Arteta, some people say, is a better coach than he is a better manager. And you would argue that he also was part of the reason why Sterling, had a couple of good seasons at Manchester City. Sterling talks about that himself. But the proof is in the pudding, right? And this is, for me, what I'm afraid of. When Saka plays for England, it's been really good. For me, and I said he shouldn't be immune to criticism, right? Now, Saka emerged under Unai Emery, and he became, important in the team. He had a great season last season. Now, did he have a great season last season because of Arteta, or did he have a great season last season because of his integration, obviously, into the England squad, just being so talented and above other players who are just really poor in our team? Emile Smith-Rowe took his chances. There are younger players that just take their chances a little bit better. For me, though, Saka, towards the end of last season, regressed. But when I see him play for England, he's so much better. Now, that also may have to do with the fact that he's surrounded by more talented players. Emile Smith-Rowe, kind of, he became a little bit exhausted. He was tired towards the end of last season. Tierney, what's happened to Tierney this season? He's regressed. What's happened to Aubameyang? Aubameyang, yes, he had personal problems last year. He fought malaria. His mum wasn't well. But, great players overcome those issues. And I think sometimes he's a passion killer. He's an overthinker. He's a micromanager. And that's my biggest concern. Klopp can point the finger at someone because he's won trophies. He's been at the top of his game in Germany, in England. Antonio Conte can do the same. Tuchel came into Chelsea and completely whipped that team into shape. Double European Cup winners. And people tell me, a new manager can't come in and improve this team. Now, I don't want to rag on him today or rag on that, but the truth is Pep can do that. They have an ego, but their ego is well placed based on where they've come from. Arteta is green. And the problem with him is that he's not willing to take a step back and listen. I don't even think he's got the right assistants beside him who can say, hey, this is what you need to do right here. He's an egomaniac, in my opinion. Now, I don't want an Arsenal manager that's learning on the job. So that was a little bit of everywhere and everything. But in a nutshell, that's what I see as a fan who watches this team week in, week out.
I think as well, one of the issues, again, from the outside looking in with Arteta, and one thing we won't know until he manages to get Arsenal in Champions League and starts to get you on a pathway to being a more successful football team, or he gets sacked. We won't know this until one of those two things happen. There's a difference between a good manager, being a good manager, a great manager, and a good coach. They're worlds apart. And some of them can do both. Arteta undoubtedly has talent as a coach. He wouldn't have been next to Pep Guardiola if he couldn't coach on a football field, on a training pitch. He wouldn't have been there. The way that Guardiola plays demands technical excellence and demands structure. They're almost like a FIFA team, completely different to Liverpool, completely different. They're almost like a coached team. So if you watch City, it's all about patterns. They go and they almost know what they're going to do. It's second science to them. They just do it automatically. I'm thinking about it. And I think Arteta has tried to take some of that to Arsenal. You look at it, you look at the way certain players play, and you think, they're not good enough. They're not good enough for what you think you're going to get out of this football team. Your players are not as good as the players you've coached at Manchester City. That's just a fact. So you've got to try and do it differently. And that's where a manager's personality and a manager's DNA gets imposed onto a football team. Jurgen Klopp took over Liverpool. We weren't ripping the world apart. We were, what were we, 8th or whatever we were when he took over. So it wasn't, it's not like he inherited a fantastic team, but he came in and his own personality was imprinted on every individual. And that's man management. And I look at Arteta and I don't think he's got the strength of personality or the strength of character to take players onto a ride with him where they can play. I hate using these type of terms, but the only way to describe it, to play Arteta ball. What's Arteta ball? Do we know what Arteta is? Do we know what he wants to play? Do we know how his teams want to set up? It's all over the place. It's all. You just brought 2 players in there. Interestingly, you said what's happened to Saka and Tierney and what's happened to Aubameyang. I think those are 2 separate questions. Saka and Tierney are young kids. They are young kids. They are going to go through ups and downs. They are going to go through times where they've got a lack of energy. The way Tierney plays, especially, he might just be taken out of it for a game or so, give it a bit of a refresh, come back into it. They're young enough, they're hungry enough to get over that. What Saka's got over in the summer, in terms of everything that went on, he's obviously got broad shoulders and he's obviously got a personality. He'll be okay. Saka will be okay. Tierney will be okay. Aubameyang, I look at him from the outside and I see a prima donna in a way, not necessarily a big ego as such, but I look at him and I see him, the way he celebrates his goals, the way he does what he does, and he thinks he's the leader of a team. There's more to being a leader of a team than scoring goals and acting like him and Lacazette doing all your, and it's like sometimes the hard yards of leaders, you don't have to have a captain's armband to be a leader. The hard yards of leadership is when things are crap. Can you count on those footballers when you're in the trenches really struggling? I tell you what, I'd rather have Tierney and Saka alongside me than Aubameyang. I would rather have those 2 footballers in the trenches with me. And this is just me looking from the outside. I might get slaughtered by Arsenal fans. But I look at it and I think
they're the future. I mean, yeah.
But he was talked about going to Barcelona. There was talk about Aubameyang getting a move and this, that. Does he want to be? I don't know. And I just think, is Arteta strong enough to actually take that on? To actually say, you know what, we're going to do this a different way?
For me, I was just happy that we walked away with the 3 points, right? Our problem too, and you're right about Aubameyang, and I don't know what's happened to him. He got the goal, but it was a very lucky goal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we created like 26 or 27 chances. It's probably the most chances we've created. We probably created more chances in this game than we did all season, and I'm being facetious, but we haven't been able to do that. But when you look at an Odegaard play and the way he plays and his style, his touch, I think we talked a little bit about on this show about how he kind of instills fear in the opposition because they're afraid of what he's going to do with the ball because you don't quite know. He's got so much creativity in him. And again, some fans thought, oh gosh, why are we wasting money on him when we could have Maddison? And it's like, come on. The guy was at Real Madrid training every day with world-class players. He was a shining star at Real Sociedad when he went there on his loan. And Maddison is injured a lot for Leicester, and he blows hot and cold. He can go 2 months hot and then he'll disappear for a while. And I think, sometimes we forget about certain players. We signed Aubameyang, Tierney, Lacazette, Pepe, Thomas Partey, Gabriel. When we had Europa League football, we had that carrot to dangle because it was a vehicle maybe back into the Champions League. But I always say not because we could win it, but financially what that brings to the club. Look at us. We've had to change and shift our profile of player. And when Adu came out and he said, we're going younger and then we're going to surround them with world class, I was like, why not buy the world class first and then mix the youngsters into that? Like you guys went Mane, Sane, Firmino, Henderson, then you bring in Virgil van Dijk, then you bring in Alisson, right? Aubameyang is not a born leader on the pitch, but in this game this weekend, it's probably the hardest I've seen him work in a long time wearing the Arsenal shirt. And I don't know if they've rectified things behind the scenes since the North London derby debacle. But our problem is, I can see this brewing again. Now, one game against Norwich, and we get 3 points. It's not the answer to everything. And as I said, I predict maybe we're going to struggle against Burnley, for sure. But that is the biggest problem. When you look at the Liverpools, when you look at the Cities, when you look at the Chelseas, I think that's what we need to stop looking at, because that's not our barometer anymore. Our barometer is Villa, Wolves, maybe not even Everton right now. We were rock bottom of the Premier League, and people keep looking up, and we're not that team anymore. And it's a real struggle because. Go on, mate.
Go on. No, you're right. You're absolutely right in terms of your perspective and where you need to be, what you need to be comparing yourselves to. Before I came on here, I was watching Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports, and Gary Neville said exactly that point, what you've just made. He was talking about Everton, and he said, what's success? And he went, forget top four. Just forget them. They're done. That top four is the top four. Whatever order it finishes, but that top four are going to be the top four. And they will be, because they are far and away the four best teams in the country. Everyone else, there's a big gap then. But Arsenal have enough talent in that team. I looked at your starting 11 from the Norwich game just before I came on, just to refresh myself to make sure I had it right. And I look at that team, and that team individually, on paper, is as good as any of those sides. You say you can't aim at Everton. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Footballing wise, you're as good as them individually. You can go against those sides. You can finish top of that pile, but it's going to take real hard work and guts and determination, as well as allowing your players to show the talent that they had. You've just talked about Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Aubameyang. Those players need a platform to be able to play. There's no point having Odegaard if he's not got any solidity behind him and he's pissing the ball away and he's conceding goals. There's no point because he's not going to be given that platform. Your central midfield and your defenders need to have a solidity around them. And the first thing that Arsenal need to do is sort that. Is give yourselves a platform that allows your Pepes and your Odegaards and your Smith Rowes and your Martinellis and your Pepes to be able to play the football which they are capable of. I always look at Arsenal and I think, when we're playing them, I always look at Arsenal and think, where are they going to hurt us? Where are Arsenal going to hurt us in this game? And I always look at it and I think, I'll tell you where they can hurt us. They've got technically very good footballers and they've got players with a bit of speed. Saka's quick, Pepe's really quick. And you think to yourself, if they can get a foothold in the game, they can really go for us. But they rarely do. Against us, rarely do. They get out-battled. They get out-battled early on. Because, you look at likes of Jordan Henderson, for example, who, is he technically the most gifted player in the world? No, he isn't. But he imposes himself, not just as a captain, but he imposes himself onto a game. He'll put a tackle in early. He'll go in early. He'll crunch someone. And it's like, you give yourself that platform. Look at Fabinho, another one. Arsenal could have been rivaling us for Fabinho's signature when we bought Fabinho from Monaco. It's about recruitment and process. And if you get your recruitment right, you've got a chance. I think you've bought well. I genuinely do. The lad from Tomiyasu, White,
Lokonga looks great.
Lokonga, Odegaard. I think your recruitment is looking good. Okay, it's looking okay, but they've got to be given a chance. And also, you need other players to step up to the piece. So someone like Thomas Partey, who came in with a big rep, he's got to remain fit, and he's got to really involve himself on the team. It's up to the likes of him. He's an international class footballer, and he's got to give the other lads a chance. Saka, Odegaard, players of that ilk, the technical players, the really good go-forward attacking players. Pepe can rip a team apart if he's given space and given the ball. Whether his finishing's up to it's another matter. Well, that's a different case altogether. You've got players who can hurt teams.
I agree. And Leroy, it's not negativity. I really wanted to have a conversation with someone who is not in our bubble every single day. And the truth is, what the ref just said, we've got to make ourselves harder to beat. And Lone Star just put up something that said structure, stability. For me, it's consistency as well. Can we take this Norwich win and put in a performance and get a result against Burnley? Can we go into the North London derby, and win that game, or at least get a draw in that game? Wimbledon, that should be an easy victory for us in the League Cup. But we don't have easy games now because we're definitely a team as well. And I think patience is important. We talked about it at the top of the show. The instant gratification world we live in, even outside of sports in life, everyone wants to be rich now. They want it tomorrow. They want to be an Instagram star. They want to have tons of followers on, social media. They want to be known. They want a voice. But life doesn't work that way. And so I've said that as much as I'm not an Arteta fan, I would like to see what he does with this squad over the next few games. At least 6 or 7 games. Now, a lot of fans are saying in the second half, he changed things. And I'm going to get into more depth with that with Kevin Campbell and David Hillier on tomorrow's show. But we haven't seen him be adaptable. We haven't seen him, have a plan B. We haven't seen him make subs when he's supposed to. We haven't seen that part of him. He's had this stubbornness because, at times he's tried to fit square pegs in round holes. But I'm going to go back to the fact that this week I'm trying to look at things in a positive light where I say, okay, we got the 3 points. It's a platform to build on. And that's the reality of where we are.
If you win your next game, is your next game Burnley, did you say? Is your next game
yes,
Burnley?
Okay. Yes. This weekend.
At Turf Moor?
Uh-huh.
Right, okay. So you go to Burnley and win, and you get a point or you beat Tottenham, then all of a sudden your conversation and narrative a month down, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line is completely different. You can go through a season, if you take and this is the problem when you play in a Man City and a Chelsea early doors. You're probably going to lose those games at the moment. Chelsea are playing well, European champions, City champions of England. You're probably going to lose because they are better teams. Just a fact. You'd have to do well to win those games. Brentford, okay. But you could go through a season, you could lose to Liverpool, you could lose to Chelsea, you could lose to Man City, you could lose to Man United. And if you take it across the piece and you're losing one a month, it's actually not that bad, is it? If you're winning your other games, you're getting points everywhere else. That's actually not the end of the world. You'll be okay. You'll get a platform. But you lose 2 on a run, and then you throw the Brentford game into it, and then you've got a problem. And actually, the positive that Arsenal should take from this weekend is that they didn't crumble. They didn't fold. They did actually fight, and they did get the 3 points and looked like they played relatively okay without being trailblazing. As you said, they were creating chances. So they weren't fearful. They weren't cocooned into this, oh my God, we've got to get something out of this game. It's a disaster. They still tried to play their football. So if I was an Arsenal fan looking at it, I would look at it and just go, okay, look, we're not going to be Brazil overnight. We're not going to be City. We're not going to be Chelsea. That's not where we are. But if we can win a game and then move on and win the next game and then move on and win the next game, all of a sudden you get momentum. If you've got 4 wins on a bounce, you are then talking a completely different language as a football team and as a fan base.
Can I, before we move on, this is a great conversation, by the way. We've got the ref on today, and this is a much more interesting conversation to me than talking about, VAR decisions, which, by the way, at least we're not talking about that as much this season. We're talking more about the football. I can't believe any Arsenal fan could sit here and say to me that Ben White and Lokonga and Tavares Ramsdale are not an improvement on the players we've had. There's no way, okay, you got to put Saliba aside. We got to forget about him for now. He's not at the club. He's on loan. There's no way Tomiyasu isn't a better option at right back than Cedric and Bellerin was and Chambers. And there's no way you can sit here and tell me that Ben White isn't a better option than Holding and Mari. You can't sit here and tell me that Sambi Lokonga is not a better option in midfield than Xhaka. I think sometimes we just want to beat the club and just shred them, just because of how poor our recruitment has been over the years. And we're basing the current recruitment on the past, and we haven't even seen the present unfold.
But also, this is where modern football drives me to insanity. So, during this transfer window, as a Liverpool supporter, I've had it left, right and centre from people, our own club, my own fans of my own club, about the fact that we haven't bought. I keep getting it. Why aren't we buying X amount? There's a reality of the situation here. We are not going to go out and spend £75 million on a footballer. It is not going to happen. The club's model means that they will do that only in a time of absolute necessity, and they've done it twice. They did it with Alisson and Van Dijk. Apart from that, we buy value and young. When we bought Robertson, when we've given Alexander-Arnold a chance, when we bought Harvey Elliott's come in, that's the way the club is run. That's why Jurgen Klopp wants to run it, because it's a reality of the situation. But transfer windows, they're almost the worst thing that can ever happen. It drives me mad, because a transfer window ends and we have debates on Sky News and TalkSport and wherever else about who's had the best transfer window. You don't know, because they haven't kicked a football yet. So you can spend £75 million on a footballer. Manchester United bought Paul Pogba for €100 million. Okay, he's had a few good games. Let's not go over the top here. He's been at the club for 2.5 years, however long he's been there. And for most of that time, he's been more idle than I don't know what. Just because you buy a player for £100 million or you don't buy a player doesn't mean that you've had a good transfer window or a bad transfer window. Arsenal players will be judged, or should be judged, a year, 2 years, even 3 years down the line, when they've had a chance to bed in and play for that football club over a period of time, and the amount of money you've spent on them becomes almost irrelevant. For example, no one asks how much Virgil van Dijk costs anymore. No one asks how much Ruben Dias costs. No one, because they don't care, because they've been brilliant. But I can tell you how much Joe Cole cost for us. Nothing. He was a free transfer. But he was garbage and he was lazy. So when you buy a player, when you buy players to come into a football club, the only time that those players can be judged is further down the line. They can't judge them at the end of a transfer window. It's pathetic, and the press drive me mad with it. There endeth my rant.
I love that rant. That's a pretty good rant. And, whether or not Arteta can make this team work, what I'm saying is, and I know, Darren, you're not happy with me right now because you think I've flipped, and I have not flipped. I am just asking fans to give these new players a chance. Were you not impressed with Aaron Ramsdale? And people say, oh, it's against Norwich, so shut up. What are you talking about? They're the worst team ever. Yo, Premier League side. We kept a clean sheet. It's a step forward. We scored a goal. It's a step forward. We got 3 points. It's a step forward. We're rock bottom of the Premier League. What do you expect? I'm not saying Arteta's going to win the league or be the man that the Arsenal back to the glory years and the glory days. And Manchester United also replaced a legendary manager. They went through David Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, and now they've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. we may go through, we've gone Emery, Arteta, there could be another man after him and another after him. We are so out of tune with the reality of who and what we've become. And the example that we give is your club. 30 years before you won the league again. But I always say Liverpool remained relevant because you got to 2 Champions League finals, you won 1, and then of course things changed when Klopp came in. And you had some garbage. You bought, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I wanted you. That's why I wanted you on today as well, because I think people forget how far you fell.
I'll give you an example, and there's a player who currently plays for Liverpool who's the best example, I think, of what you're talking about here. So you take Ben White. You know, people are on his case already, or Ramsdale. People are on his case already. I don't really know what they expect. If I'm honest, I don't get it. So I don't understand why that's happening. But take Jordan Henderson at Liverpool. Up until about 4 or 5 years ago, the narrative around Jordan Henderson amongst many of our fans was he's not good enough. He was unfairly compared with Steven Gerrard, which is the most ridiculous thing on earth. That's like comparing me with Brad Pitt. I mean, I'm all right, but let's not aim there, shall we? But it's like Jordan Henderson's not good enough because he's not Steven Gerrard. No, Jordan Henderson's Jordan Henderson. So the manager could have easily gone out and bought a midfielder to replace him. People thought that that's what we were doing when we bought certain players. Oh, he'll come in. There's a narrative around it. He'll replace Henderson in the team. Henderson's never gone out of the team. He's club captain. When Virgil van Dijk came into the club, everyone went, well, here's the captain. He'll just hand the armband over. No, Jordan Henderson's the captain. If you're patient enough and the players have the right character and they have the right talent, they will succeed. They will. You don't. I think people misunderstand recruitment processes as well. Whatever anyone thinks of Arsenal and the recruitment, they're not stupid. They have scouts. They have people going all over the world or in parts of the world watching footballers every week. They will have a team there that's looking at the numbers, that's looking at the character, that's looking at the players. Yes, of course, they've made mistakes in the past, but they're still not daft. The players who you're bringing in are not duck eggs. These are international quality, exceptional footballers. Now, does that mean they'll be a success? Not necessarily. But it also doesn't necessarily mean they'll be a failure because they're not, I don't know, they're not Cristiano Ronaldo or they're not whoever, Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah? Kevin De Bruyne was once a failed player at Chelsea. Mohamed Salah was a failed player at Chelsea.
Yes, absolutely.
Mohamed Salah was brought into Liverpool, and I can remember vividly at the time people going, really?
Yeah, I remember.
So just allow yourselves, instead of, and this is every football set of support, it's not just Arsenal, allow yourselves to actually take a step back, breathe, and go, you know what? We can't do anything about the past. We can't do anything about what happened last season. It's gone. But the one thing that will unite any fan base, you all want them to succeed. You all want Arsenal to win. No one wants your team to lose. So actually give yourselves the best chance of supporting your side and giving them a base. Because one of the things that hits me when I go to the Emirates, it's a fragile fan base.
Yeah,
Now we were there and people laughed at us when Jurgen Klopp did the West Brom thing when he celebrated or got the players in front of the Kop after we'd equalised in injury time against West Brom, and we got mocked. Evertonians thought it was the greatest thing on earth. It's the nearest thing they've had to winning a trophy. That was us celebrating a draw against West Brom. It was like, what are they doing this for? He did it for a reason, because it was the one time that the crowd stayed with the team and we got something. And that almost, as much as anything, created this belief around the place that, you know what? We can win games, and you don't write us off. No one writes us off now at Anfield. Well, not when there's no crowds in, maybe, but when there's crowds in a stadium, you've got to, as a fan base, and certainly match-going fans, people who go to the Emirates,
I'm really
be an unconditional level of support.
Yes, and you know what? I'll tell you one thing, Ref. I am really proud of our fan base so far this season. Our fan base, away at City, we're getting thumped. They're singing their hearts out. Our fans at home have been really behind the squad and behind the team. They've been phenomenal so far this season. But those doubloons, you know, those moments, if we don't continue on this path, you know, they're ready. They'll be ready. They'll be ready to go at the manager and the team. But
a thumping against Spurs, we'll see where that particular thing is.
Terence, this is the problem. I brought the ref on to have the outsider perspective. And you may think he does. Arsenal fans don't understand the Arsenal. What are you talking about? I mean, you know, and you're right, Stacey. He is spot on. And there's a reason I wanted to talk about the Liverpool situation, because you had to sit there and eat shite for a long time watching United win over and over again, mate.
Let me tell you one very quick story. The lowest point of my match watching life at Anfield was we played Leicester City at home, and Leicester were garbage. They were bottom of the league, garbage. And we conceded a 93rd minute loser to Ian Marshall, who used to play for Everton, and he looked like, what's his face, who sang Achy Breaky Heart, what was he called?
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, Billy Ray Cyrus. He looked like Billy Ray Cyrus and frankly played like it. But he managed to outstrip our defence and set the ball around the keeper and score. But the same night, United beat Juventus in Turin, where they came back and won in the Champions League semi-final. And I can remember coming out of Anfield going, I don't know what I'm doing with this. This is like, I've got United getting to a European Cup final. I've got us getting beaten by Billy Ray Cyrus. It's like, I just want to go home and garbage. I mean, but then if you roll forward, if you just said to me at that point, or you just said to me when we had Mario Balotelli playing up front for us, if you just said to me at that point that I'd be sat here talking to you now after winning the league and winning the European Cup, I'd have laughed in your face. So it's possible. It's possible. But the stars have to align. And there has to be patience and there has to be support. I heard you support against City. And they were allowed. It's not hard at the Etihad, is it? Let's face facts. You know, a few smashed crisp bags at the Etihad would outsing the City fans. But no, you allowed, you know, and you keep that, keep some belief going. There's no reason why they can't. These are talent. I was looking just what I've got the team here. They're talented footballers. They're not idiots. That's a good side.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I do. And I just think that there's no patience in football. And, you know, you guys had to be patient. It's 17 years now for us in terms of the Premier League and not having won. But we have to start somewhere. And when you hit the bottom of the Premier League, the only thing that you can do, even the dogs agree with me, the only thing that you can do is start with the basics, you know, and go from there. Hold on one second. I want to ask you this before we duck out, right? Can you talk me through our goal? Did you think it was offside?
Well, it was not offside. It's quite an easy decision, really. It looks closer than it is. So Pepe, it was Pepe, wasn't it? Pepe has a shot. It's the post, comes out. And if you watch it, when he has his first shot, it's the inside of the post, Aubameyang's in an offside position, but he's not involved in that phase of play. So when the ball comes back out and the shot gets ricocheted onto the post again, comes out, it hits Pepe's foot and goes back to Aubameyang, who puts it in. Aubameyang's behind the ball. So he can't be offside. By the letter of the law, he's onside. It's not a difficult one. And actually what was good about it was that VAR didn't take 15 minutes looking at it. They just went, we've looked at it, it's a goal, he's behind the ball, it's clear, play on.
All right, cool. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, do you feel like this season's off to a good start in the sense that we're talking more about the football than VAR decisions? You know, there's talk about in 2022, they want to bring in the ref talking to fans, very much like in the NFL in terms of VAR decisions as they're happening in real time. I think it's been pretty good so far. What's your take?
No, absolutely. It's they've tightened the process up. The process is speeded up. The weight of evidence now is in favour of the attacking side, shall we say. It's the demarcation is clearer, so they're not having to draw lines, they're not having to look at it with the width. It's pretty clear now. If there's a benefit of the doubt, then they go with the attacking team, and it's absolutely right, and that's how it should be. Speed that's the problem. Speed and communication. What you said before is right. In rugby they do it, in the NFL they do it. You can hear the process. And I think as a fan in the ground, that's one of the frustrating things, because if you're a fan on the TV, you can almost understand the process because you're getting it explained in a way, because pundits are doing it for you. But in the ground, you haven't got a clue. I now look at the referee. I look at the referee to see where he is, because if he's walked back to the halfway line, even though they're checking it, pretty much that's going to get given. But if he stands his position and waits, I think there's an issue here. But we shouldn't have to put up with that. We should be able to hear it.
It's about, at Anfield and Old Trafford, there's not even screens. That must be really tough. I mean, last season, especially when some of the decisions were being made by hair's breadth and nails and things like that, it was just absolute garbage. I think the Euros have helped, don't you think, realign kind of what the Premier League are doing. I mean, it was almost like a flawless competition when it came to VAR.
The Premier League has followed that blueprint. And now it's a much tighter. Can I just say something about the screen? If you get a screen at Anfield, I'll pull it down myself. My dad, who's 95 years of age, has been going since the time immemorial. He's only just got over and putting a scoreboard in. He's not happy with that. He's like, he's got a point. It's not rugby. It's not cricket. I know the score. It's 2-0. It's not difficult.
So epic. I love it.
Look at the scoreboard to know what the score is.
Oh my goodness. This has been absolutely brilliant. Everyone's really enjoyed your take tonight, and they want me to do this just because you're the ref. And I don't know, this season I've introduced yellow and red cards to the show. So to appease the squaddies, my loyal army here, they just want me to do this just because they want the vista of it. Referee.
That's ridiculous.
It's going to go to VAR. This one's going to VAR for sure. So, no, but I think I'd like to continue our conversation as well, because for me, I love getting the take of opposing fans, smart fans. And again, as I started the show, the comment about Ben White is, I think, especially Man United fans kind of coming after me, and Man United fans especially now thinking that they're the bee's knees because they have Ronaldo. A lot of people in chat, and I'm going to get you out on this question, Ref. Do you think United get decisions going their way left, right and centre, yeah? Do you think he's going to get special treatment this season?
Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Probably, but you know what? I'm going to be controversial here because I don't fall for the United get more than anyone else, so that's not the way I look at it. The way I look at it is this: Cristiano Ronaldo will be in and around the penalty box all the time, and therefore he'll draw tackles, and therefore he'll get decisions. Yeah. It's a smart piece of business by United.
And I'm going to say something that some fans may not want to hear. I think Salah is one of the most underappreciated, disrespected, prolific striker, scorer, forward player.
He's underestimated by our own support. The adulation.
That's crazy to me.
The adulation that someone like a Robbie Fowler gets, and I love Robbie Fowler before anyone says anything. I absolutely adore him. But the adulation that Robbie Fowler gets by Liverpool fans, Scouts, it's slightly different. But you look at the numbers. The 4 players who scored more goals than him in Premier League history are 4 of the best centre forwards ever to have played the game. He's a wide forward, and he scored 100 Premier League goals.
It's crazy.
Ridiculous. And people say the best comment about him is he's greedy. Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's right. So was Ian Rush. So was Ian Wright. So was Thierry Henry.
I just don't understand people who say that. I mean, a forward. I want my forward to be greedy. I want Aubameyang to be a greedy bastard.
Put the ball in the back of the net and then worry about it later.
Yeah, exactly. If I could take a player from the top 4, I would love Salah in my team. He is absolutely unbelievable.
Well, I wouldn't swap him, so.
Right, Ref, absolutely brilliant stuff from you tonight. Ladies Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the rules. I mean, the dogs came out. I do apologise for the woof woofing. They like it though, ref. They do like it when the dogs come out. Hit that like button if you hate Tottenham. And well done, Patrick Vieira, for making it a double-double this weekend. Let's be positive if we can. We can still have honest conversations. We can still talk about our manager, our players, but let's try and do it in the spirit of the beautiful game. All right, hit that like button. We're going to be back tomorrow night. You're not going to want to miss that show. David Hillier returns with Super Kevin Campbell for the Tuesday-ish club. Until then, ref, are you going to salute the squaddies? We'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Oopsies.